Good morning, Shannon B. Douglas. This is while we were asleep. I am on a walking trail near the Bow River in Calgary, Alberta, in the rolling foothills of the Rockies. I've been here in Calgary for a couple of days, talking to people about the woke infiltration and woke ideology. Had some pretty tremendous insights, confirmations. I met with one of the executives of FAIR, the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism, which is an organization coming up from the States into Canada that is the anti-racists, or the best form of anti-racism that we might enact, and that is a recognition that we are all individuals, and that individual prejudice is the cause of suffering and racism in our society, and not group identity. FAIR was founded in the United States about 15 or 18 months ago by a gentleman from New York, a parent who was discovering that his children's schools, were suggesting that his kids be segregated by race and to teach them about their racial identities, which unfortunately sets people up for conflict, because there are good racial groups, the oppressed, and then there are the oppressor racial groups, the white people. And he really felt like, because he's a multicultural individual, a multiracial individual, that he just said plainly, I thought I was an American, and all of a sudden we're teaching kids to segregate again. And some of those things are being confirmed by parents I'm talking to, where their son in grade 6 is being told that he is racist and has racial privilege over Indigenous people, and there doesn't seem to be any escape from this for him. So he's being given an identity in the public school system that he is a bad person. And that's not education, that's abuse. My name is Shannon Douglas. This is While We Were Asleep. And this is spread far and wide. I'm trying to grapple, and a common question that comes up is, where did this all start? Where is it coming from? Now, some people like James Lindsay can point back into the origins of critical race theory to Michel Foucault, and then the Harvard Law School, where critical race theory got its start, spread over to English departments in universities in the 90s, and then women's studies and gender studies captured and proliferated. Then the capture of teachers' colleges, where trained academics are training activist teachers to become the indoctrinators of children in schools, which has been happening for a decade or more now. We're starting to see the symptoms of it. That's the problem. And it's been pernicious in its infiltration. A number of years ago, there was a fair public conversation around third wave feminism and its belief that all men are rapists, that boys need to be taught not to rape, that we started to see, oh my Lord, what a gorgeous view. Here we go. It's going to get loud on the microphone because it's a bit windy. This is the Bow River, and I just came out into a little overlook. The water is crystal blue. Let's see if we can get some of that icy cold mountain spring runoff flowing rather quickly. I can see. So it seems like in schools, the teachers were first indoctrinated with this kind of radical and extreme feminist view of the world, that men are rapists and misogynists and defective humans and abusers, and all women are gentle flowers who need to be protected from misogyny. And these kinds of lessons have led to institutionalized discrimination against men and boys. Good morning. Programs over the decades have been developed for women because of discrimination to advance them in education because they've been supposedly historically oppressed. So now we're in a situation where 39% of university graduates are men. Men are dropping out of high school, or young men are dropping out of high school, and deciding not to go on with education, floundering, feeling a sense of meaninglessness and purposelessness, being indoctrinated with an identity that they're somehow bad or defective, and abused in our school systems. Now, 61% of university graduates are women, overwhelmingly departments in the health sciences, doctors, psychologists, therapists, social workers, overwhelmingly are graduating women. The last bastion for men in academia is the STEMs, and the feminists and the equity people are constantly banging on that door, talking about discrimination and misogyny and lack of opportunity for women in these fields. And this is just garbage. For example, my stepdaughter is a brilliant young woman, and she's more interested in helping people than working with things. There's been a lot of talk about this. Jordan Peterson has covered it very well. Janice Fiamengo, a number of other critics of these radical feminist ideologies. And my stepdaughter will go on and do very well in the field she's chosen, but it wasn't STEM. In spite of every obstacle being removed, in spite of every incentive, in spite of every encouragement, girls just aren't interested in things as much as boys are. These are biological differences, temperamental differences between men and women. Let's face it, women tend to be more emotionally intelligent than men, tend to be more capable of managing relationships, multiple relationships, and understanding emotions than men are. Men tend to be more interested in things and objects. In the classical Chinese philosophy and archetype of yin and yang, yin is the internal, receptive, introspective, feminine energy. Yang is the external, exploratory, outside, action, aggression, making things happen. This is masculine and feminine. We have to be able to balance these energies not only in our lives but in ourselves, so that we can be attuned to our other halves, let's say our sisters, our mothers, our spouses, and if we are women, our sons, our fathers, our spouses. It's still, it feels like this is the source to me. And this may upset some of my feminist friends, and I'm aligned with you as long as I'm a human being to you. If I'm just a stereotyped oppressor, then our allegiances won't last long. At the moment, we're trying to protect young women from trans ideology and the medicalization overwhelmingly of young girls to become boys, and the misogyny of trans ideology. But underneath the surface, if we're not commonly aligned, if we can't recognize each other in our humanity and recognize that men and women are struggling to find our way in this world in the best way we can, we want to find relationships with a partner in our lives. We want to be able to have friends and family and healthy lives and safe lives. those are pretty common cause. And the suggestion, I'm getting it again on Twitter, that all men are rapists, just drives me crazy. And that men need to be taught not to rape, and women are perennial victims. Look at the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp trial that's going on. I've dealt with abusive women, and women act out abuse much differently than men do. Women tend to use social manipulations and emotional tools to abuse. Men tend to be physical, though not always, if they're abusers. And when we're talking about abusers in society, women or men, we're talking about a small percentage, less than 10%, perhaps even less than 5 significant abusers. And this is no cause to make generalizations about entire populations, about half of humanity, by radical feminists. Let's talk the truth. If we want to combat woke ideology, we want to combat gender theory and queer theory that's taking over schools and that's mutilating our children and destroying the very foundations of what it means to be human, then we need to speak the truth with each other. We need to be open and honest and vulnerable and caring and loving humans. And we need to start with the assumptions that we're all coming from that same place, or that most of us in good faith are going to act in that capacity. When we make wide generalizations about race, about gender, about the opposite sex, we're just playing the same game. So if we want to stop woke ideology, we have to figure out how to collaborate in good faith. My name is Shannon B. Douglas. This is While We Were Asleep.